What's going on, everybody? American Football Network here with another video today. And today we're bringing you guys our Clemson versus Wake Forest preview prediction video. But before we get started, make sure you guys like and subscribe. Comment those thoughts and opinions down below. Help me reach that goal of 1,100 subscribers by the end of September. We appreciate all of you guys who have subscribed to us. It's been a while since we've been able to put a video out. Been busy, but we are back. Make sure you guys check out the description where you can find links to our podcast and our website. We do weekly college football rankings on there. You can also find that in the community tab of my channel profile. Also, make sure you check out our shop patron page as well, and our college football roundup channel that we do with the football expert. A lot of great college football content out on that, a lot of great college football videos that come out over there. So make sure you guys head over there and check all that out. But let's go ahead and jump into today's video. So, Wake Forest versus Clemson. It is homecoming in Tiger Town, Saturday, October 7th, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time on ACC Network will be the kickoff. So Clemson comes into this game at 3-2 overall, 1-2 in the conference. Wake Forest comes in at 3-1, 0-1 in the conference. A look at Clemson's schedule so far: they lost at Duke in Week 1, 28-7, just a bad loss. Turnovers killed them. Come back to next week at home, beat Charleston Southern 66-17. Still kind of, um, killed by the turnovers in that game, but Charleston Southern just isn't good enough to beat you. But in that game, Clemson was tied at 14, and Charleston Southern had one offensive yard in the game to score. They got a pick six, and then they got another one that I think a fumble recovery that they took all the way down to the one and then punched it in. And then the next week, come back against FAU. You win that one 48-14. That was the only game so far this year that through this point that they had won the turnover margin. Started the game off. Nate Wiggins pick six to the house. Ended up winning 48-14 in that one. Then the next week you lose to FSU 31-24, and that game kind of summed up Clemson's season to the point. You played a great game. You had Florida State beat, and the turnovers and the field goal kicking hurt you. You fumble. I believe Florida State scored 3 offensive points in the second half. To make it 17-17. Then Clemson scores. It's 24-17. Clemson has the ball. They're driving 24-17 with the lead in Florida State territory. Klubnik gets hit, he fumbles, and Florida State runs it all the way back, ties it up at 24. At the end of regulation, Clemson has a chance at a 29-yard field goal to put them up 27-24 with, I believe, a little over a minute to play, and they missed it. Florida State went down the field. They couldn't do anything with it. Go to overtime. Florida State scores. Keon Coleman, nice catch in the end zone over Jaden Lucas, and then this the bad play calling, and Clemson couldn't do anything in the overtime period, so they do lose that one, a close one. But a nice bounce back last week on the road at 4-0 Syracuse. They win that one 31-14. They win the turnover battle. They force 3 of them, only give up 1. And the turnover Clemson had in that game, there was nothing you could do about it. I mean, Brenning Stool got hit as soon as he caught the football. Nobody hangs on to that one. But a nice job by the defense to create some turnovers of their own. That was a big game for Clemson, especially just mentally and how they're going to play, because you lose a tough one to Florida State like that, you can kind of check out mentally. Some of your guys can, but Clemson fought, and they looked like a mad team. They looked like a team that very well could go on a tear to end the season. And you look at Wake Forest, they played, they had Elon at home. They won that one 37-17. Then they got Vanderbilt at home, won that one 36-20. Went on the road to Old Dominion, came away in a nail biter, won it 27-24. And then they get Georgia Tech at home and lost that one 30-16. So they come in 3-1 overall, 0-1 in the conference. Just 4 games so far. I believe they're coming off a bye week here against Clemson coming in. Clemson's bye week is next week. You look at some series history between the two. Clemson leads the all-time series over the Demon Deacons 70-17. So this has not been a competitive game throughout history. Clemson has won 14 in a row against the Demon Deacons. Wake Forest last won in 2008 in Winston-Salem, 12-7. Tommy Bowden's last game, and we all know what happened from there. Dabo Swinney was hired, and the rest is history. Then One more stat I wanted to put out or point out in the series: Wake Forest has not beaten Clemson in Death Valley since 1998. Over 20 years that since the last time they won in the Valley. Knock on wood. Hopefully that won't happen again this year. They won't break that streak this year. But I don't really see that happening. We look at by the numbers, points per game. Clemson comes in averaging 35.2 points a game. That's 35th in the country. Wake Forest at 29, so not a strong offense from them. 68th in the country. Look at the offensive production from these teams. Clemson comes in averaging 474.2 yards per game, 21st in the country. Look at Wake Forest, only 426 and a half per game, 48th in the country. It's crazy when you look at them. Those both look like a lot, and not a whole lot separates them. Only about 50 yards separates them. But when you look at what other teams are averaging throughout the country, they're separated by 27 spots. So those 50 yards matter. You look at total defense. Clemson comes in allowing only 266.4 yards a game. That's good for ninth in the country. Wake Forest, on the other end, struggling a little bit defensively, allowing 338.5 yards per game, 45th in the country. Look at third down offense. Clemson comes in converting on third downs 47.8% of the time. That's 25th, tied for 25th in the country. Wake Forest, similar number, 47.5% of the time. They're 27th in the country. Third down defense. Clemson comes in allowing third down conversions defensively 35.1% of the time. That's number 39th in the country. Wake Forest, on the other hand, a little more stingy with their third down conversions at 31%, number 18 in the country. Look at the red zone offense. This is where Wake Forest is better than Clemson. Clemson 69% conversion percentage in the red zone this year. That's 125th in the country. They're 20 of 29. They have 9 rushing touchdowns, 8 passing touchdowns, 3 field goals made in the red zone. You look at Wake Forest, on the other hand, 83.3% conversion. That's 67th, tied for 67th in the country. They're 15 of 18, 3 rushing, 4 passing, 8 field goals. So, Clemson does get into the red zone more than Wake Forest does, but Wake Forest converting at a higher percentage than Clemson is. So that's something you might want to watch in this game. You look at the red zone defense. Clemson 77.8% allowing scores. That percentage of the time, that's tied for 44th in the country. They've allowed 9 attempts. They've allowed scores on 7, 4 rushing, 2 passing, 1 field goal. Look at Wake Forest, only allowing points scored in the red zone 55.6% of the time. That's number 7th in the country. They're 5 of 9. Haven't allowed a rushing touchdown in the red zone, only 2 passing and 3 field goals. So Wake Forest red zone defense is pretty solid. Now the defense in total is not great, but when you get down to the red zone, this Wake Forest defense seems to turn it up a notch and play a little bit better. Now the turnover margin, something that has not been in Clemson's favor much this season. They come in with a turnover margin of 2, tied for 38th in the country. They have forced 5 fumbles and 5 interceptions, while they've fumbled the ball 6 times and threw 2 interceptions. I love to see that only 2 interceptions so far for Cade Klubnik, though, through 5 games. That is a promising sign. You wish some of these other guys could hold on to the football a little bit more, especially in that Duke game. That's what really killed you. Wake Forest comes in at -2 in the turnover margin department, tied for 99th. 2 forced fumbles and 6 interceptions forced. You look on the other side, they've turned the ball, or they've put 4 fumbles on the ground and lost them and thrown 6 interceptions. So I think it's safe to say these Clemson defensive backs are going to be after the football. Is like I mentioned, Wake Forest already thrown 6 picks. I think Clemson gets after the football here. I think that they can. This is a game they can force some turnovers in, and this leads right into my keys to the game. Number 1 for Clemson, key to the game is win the turnover battle. You need to win the turnover battle. You won it big last week. Continue that momentum. Again, this is a Wake Forest team that turns the ball over a lot more than they force it. 6 interceptions. Would like to see the DBs playing a little bit aggressive here. Now, still staying in your assignment, but play aggressive. Get some interceptions. Look for bad passes. And just be in the right spot at the right time and get a pick. Also, hard hits. They fumbled the ball 4 times, not quite as much as Clemson has, but they've put the ball on the ground some. But you really want to limit your turnovers and force some defensively, because the momentum of turnover can change when the defense gets a turnover and the offense takes it down the field and scores a touchdown with it. the momentum that you get from that is tremendous. So I would love to see this Clemson team do that this week against Wake Forest. Kind of, just continue what you built on last week, and even back to the Florida State game, just continue to build on that into the farther point in the season, and that starts with winning the turnover battle. Number two, winning the red zone. We saw Wake Forest pretty good in the red zone offensively. And then defensively, one of the best in the country at number seven. Now, they haven't played a whole lot of great teams, but I mean, still they've played, I believe. Let's see here, yeah, two Power Five teams in Vanderbilt and Georgia Tech. So and Georgia Tech is a solid team. They had a bad loss to Bowling Green this past week, but Georgia Tech is still a solid team. So they've been good in the red zone and limiting their red zone trips. They've only given up 9 trips to the red zone. I expect that to change, but you got to win in the red zone. When you're on offense, you have got to convert, and when you're on the defensive side of the ball, you've got to hold them to field goals, man. You've given up 6 touchdowns to 1 field goal inside the red zone and 2 stops. You got to flip that. Instead of giving up 6 touchdowns and 1 field goal, you want to be more like 2 touchdowns and 4 field goals, something like that, or like Wake Forest is 2 touchdowns, 3 field goals, and their 5 scores. Something like that would be nice. So, winning the red zone, that's going to be a key. And then number three for me for Clemson is establish a run game. You got to get the run game going. That'll open some things up in the passing game. Would like to see Will Shipley come out of the gates hot here running the football, him and Phil Maffa, but particularly Shipley, get him going, as he hasn't really been producing a whole lot early on this season, but establish a run game with him, get him loose, get him out in some space, and open up some one-on-one coverage for your receivers. Get Tyler Brown going deep, because man, he's turned into a star for Clemson early on so far. Get him running deep. Get Bo Collins out there on the outside going deep. Um, run some play action, but that all starts whenever you establish the run game. I think if Clemson can run for about 150 yards, that's going to set Klubnik up to throw for, probably 300 yards and a few touchdowns, maybe get some rushing touchdowns. And I think that Clemson will be just fine. So now for my score prediction, I have Clemson winning this game over Wake Forest 45-13. So I have them covering the spread. I believe it is 20. Let me look that up real quick. But yeah, I think that Clemson is going to be okay in this game. Um I don't really see them doing much to really stop Clemson. It's 17.5 for Clemson. I think they cover that. Um I'm also seeing 20.5 for Clemson. Okay. So I mean, either one, I think that they're going to win the football game either way. I just think that, Wake Forest, if you can limit your turnovers and win in the red zone, I think you easily cover. Just, Wake Forest has not played great this season. It took a last second win to beat Old Dominion, and Clemson's a lot better than Old Dominion. They got smoked at home by Georgia Tech by 2 touchdowns. So I think it's safe to say Clemson can win this game by 20 plus point 21 plus points. I don't think they'll have a problem in doing that, but just want to continue to see the positive signs. Don't want to see any guys, you know, kind of check it out mentally, overlooking this game. With the bye week coming up next week, you gotta go hard and then get a big win, and then rest up next week for the bye week before you believe you go on the road to Miami the next game out. So, just be prepared as for Clemson. Don't be looking ahead to the bye week. I think you win. So give my score prediction: Clemson 45, Wake Forest 13. I think our Tigers get a big win. But that wraps up today's video. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Comment those thoughts and opinions down below. Let me know what you thought. Let me know what your score prediction is. The person with the closest score prediction gets a shout out in the next video. So make sure you guys put those down in the comments. We appreciate all of you guys watching, and we'll see you next.